Hello and good morning, everyone. Today, I, as a narrator, am going to be presenting about the murder case in the library. At around 7 p.m., guests arrived for dinner at Mrs. Horsehair's home. Charlotte, the maid, overheard a fight between Mrs. Horsehair and her niece Daphne, who stormed off crying. Later, Geoffrey was caught complaining about money on the phone. By 8 p.m., several guests, which include Daphne and her lover Mr. Archibald, Geoffrey, and actress Miss Topless, appeared to be upset. Dinner was tense but passed without incident. At 9 p.m., the ladies had coffee in the parlor, where, as the men played billiards, Miss Daphne sent a secret note to Mr. Archibald by giving it to the butler, Velvet. Miss Topless went into the ballroom where Mr. Oscar was seen. Geoffrey left for the library, saying he had a letter to write. By 9:40 p.m., Truelove went outside to smoke. Charlotte heard a loud voice from the ballroom. Then Mrs. Horsehair appeared looking for a book and said she'd check the library. Around 10 p.m., Charlotte heard a scream. Mrs. Horsehair was found murdered in the library. Geoffrey's cigarettes were at the scene, the candlestick was missing, and windows were open. Guests rushed in from all directions. Geoffrey arrived last, claiming he found Reverend Truelove unconscious outside. He shows the timeline for the interaction throughout the stories between the maid, butler, and the vicar. In the next category, we are providing evidence about the potential remaining suspects. Who is not the murderer of Mrs. Horsehair? Reverend Truelove and Mr. Archibald said that they would join the ladies in the parlor. Dame Christie and Myrtle Berry is still in the parlor room. The maid, Charlotte, is busy collecting cups in the parlor, whereas the butler, Velvet, is attending to the gentlemen in the billiard room. The vicar, Reverend Truelove, went for a quiet stroll, a smoke in the ground, which makes it lowers down to 5 potential suspects. As for Geoffrey, he had a motive for money and a temper, but he said he'd find the money somehow, which implies he wasn't planning the murder. Plus, he left the house before the murder, making him less likely to be the killer. But this could tell otherwise. This picture shows where Geoffrey is in the map. The evidence for the next potential suspects are Mr. Archibald and Miss Daphne. Daphne and young Archibald are suspicious because they were the closest to the library when the murder happened, but didn't react to the scream. Unlike Charlotte, who was farther away and still heard it, Daphne also passed a secret note about a plan, suggesting something serious. And lastly, the evidence for the remaining suspects, Miss Topless and Mr. Oscar. Oscar was seen flirting with Mrs. Horsehair, who planned to marry him and change her will. Miss Topless, his jealous companion, was visibly upset. Around 9:30 p.m., Oscar left the billiard room, later seen in the ballroom with Miss Topless, who followed him. Both arrived at the murder scene shortly after the body was found in Mrs. Horsehair's home. Here are the motives for each suspect. As for Mr. Geoffrey, he wanted to inherit the fortune from his mother for gambling money, whereas Mr. Archibald and Miss Daphne are desperately in love with each other and couldn't be together due to the difference in status. With both of them inheriting Mrs. Horsehair money, they can finally marry each other without objection. Then, for Miss Topless, she is seen jealous of Mrs. Horsehair and Mr. Oscarson's intimate relationship. And lastly, for Mr. Oscar Oscarson may have planned to marry Mrs. Horsehair for money or fame. As a filmmaker, her death could bring him fame. To conclude the finding of who the murderer is, we think that it is Mr. Geoffrey, because their motive is the most plausible and the way they committed the murder is most convincing. And that is all for our slides for the murder in the library.